into the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
So many deaths. So many
non-deaths.
Hey guys, welcome to the Walking Dead AFTERBUZZ After Show. I'm Dave Klein. Joining me tonight, Derrial Christon.
Hey, what's up, guys? Disappointed Derrial Christon, by the way.
Yes, very disappointed. And John Carle.
Yep, WrestleMania was awesome, wasn't it?
I loved it. I thought WrestleMania was great. Come on, Seth Rollins.
Whoa, what is something to watch yet? Nando Velasquez.
Hey, everybody. I'm spoiling other shows for you guys. Sorry. As usual. How you doing? I'm going to do the Derrial walk.
Nice
I'm
shirt,
doing the Derrial.
Nando.
Thank you. I like your shirt too, Derrial. For those of you tuning in live on YouTube, because we're on live right now.
I wish I had a button down on now.
Join the club, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for wearing your button downs. I don't know where I was going with that. So
that was weird.
We had this whole build up though, and I really blame it all on a lot of good acting from PR, from the actors of the show, of course, acting in interviews and such, and just talking about things like we had all these potential things like Norman Reedus saying you're gonna have to bring out the tissues for the last episode.
Seriously, you're gonna scream at your TV. You're gonna want to kick it down. Yeah.
That was accurate. We were screaming at the TV.
We were.
But for different reasons, though, John. I mean, let's be honest.
We got pretty involved.
I wanted more deaths. That's why I was screaming at the TV.
We had. We also had the possible slip up from Robert Kirkman.
Yes.
It was Robert Kirkman, right?
You mean from Midnight?
Yeah.
When he was talking, well, that was not a spoiler about this season, but that was like he was just revealing something from the comic book.
It was something that seemed like it could lead into.
It could happen. People kept talking about this one major villain in the comic books that might be coming. That's all.
Regardless, but between all those things, it was just like, man, the stakes were high for this episode. It felt like there were going to be at least one major death, at least a couple major deaths.
Yeah.
No, we just all assumed major. That was the issue.
But that is the way they built it up. I mean, we'll talk about it later.
Look, and the internet was going crazy for weeks about certain characters possibly going, and some arcs that just seemed to make sense. That people were having these last big Emmy-worthy moments. Before they probably go off into their next show, possibly. Like Sasha going a little off the deep end.
I thought, yeah. I mean, we got to the last 10 minutes. I was like, wait a minute, we don't have any deaths. What's going on here?
Yeah.
But at least Tara's still alive, so thank God for that.
Yes, thank God for that.
That was the one thing. Yeah, she woke up at the most...
Even Tara.
The relief moment.
It would have been
At
great
the
just to see her
moment.
killed in the bed. She's just pass out, Walker gets in there and gets her. That would have been fine.
I was hoping that would be the case.
That would have been great.
Tara had to be alive for them to do what they did at the last moment.
True.
I think that made it worthwhile, at least, not knowing there were any ramifications of what Rick did at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? I actually liked the fact that we had all this build-up from everything, because I wouldn't have been so invested in the episode had I not thought someone was going to die for sure. And
Reggie died.
There was so much build-up making you think that, is it going to be Glenn? Maybe as I talked about, Michonne hung up her sword, everyone's getting too comfortable. And they had, Daryl had his moment, but just, giant moments in this episode, especially with the build-up from everything we've heard off-camera from people.
If you put this up against the fall finale, the mid-season finale, I mean, hands down, so much better. And Beth, and people knew, they pretty much knew Beth was a goner. They felt it. There was all that rumor going on, Beth being a goner. And this episode, so much better than that one. And yet all this anticipation that maybe somebody was going. And, I mean, for me, it was I didn't realize how invested I was in certain characters until I saw them looking like they might die, like Glenn.
Gabriel. I was like, oh man, now I'm so invested in Gabriel.
Everyone knows who watches this show, who knows me, knows I wanted Gabriel to go down. I wanted him to die in a hard death.
You weren't alone.
Thank you, Alexis from the booth.
Yes.
Who is our engineer.
Hi, everybody.
wanted him to die so hard and so painful. I can embellish and say I was going to find enjoyment of him dying, actually.
Well,
to be honest.
Yet again, why we were screaming at the screen.
I mean, both of the characters who almost died, both Nicholas and Gabriel, I was like, I'm fine with this. This is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
This is how it's going to be. So let's go ahead and talk about one of those moments, one of the main ones, which was Glenn and everything that happened with him and his storyline. Because first we get that build-up, which is him... he says "I love you" to Maggie, and that's all of a sudden like, oh no!
Of course,
going down.
And David really paid attention to that. Anytime someone says "I love you" to Maggie,
and I'm like, no, no.
Yeah,
we all know how you feel
obviously.
about Maggie,
Yes.
Dave.
Yeah.
We know.
That's when you want
Glenn,
him to
you
die.
can die. It's okay by me. No, I like Glenn's character sometimes.
Not when he's loving Maggie.
I got my eye on you, Glenn.
oh god,
Oh my God.
So, point is though, as soon as he said that though, it's just like it's one of those moments in this show that's an immediate warning sign, because you get that so much of just like as soon as someone starts opening up and becoming nice and normal, they're going to die. And then it built up to it from last week, Nicholas having the gun. So they get into that giant fight as Glenn goes to chase him down, and they keep on leaving you hanging every commercial break of has Glenn made it, has he not? But a couple good blows from both of them. I thought it was a good overall fight. I thought it was a good scene because it really does. Unlike, say, a couple seasons ago with the governor, I'm blanking on her name, but the blonde-haired
Andrea?
From Andrea. Other than Andrea,
How could you forget Andrea?
it's been a couple seasons. Sorry, Andrea. But Andrea's death was so anticlimactic.
No, you're right.
And even if she hadn't died, it still was an anticlimactic thing because it kept on being like, Andrew, you can get out of those holes. Andrew, you can do this. But Glenn's thing, the entire struggle felt real. It felt like, oh no, he could die here. He could die here. So I actually thought the way they handled it was pretty well for building up the tension.
No, it was. I mean, the only thing I have to say about it is that reading so many things about The Walking Dead prior to the season finale is that we had such a buildup, right? So I had in my mind what was going to happen. And when it didn't happen, I was kind of disappointed. You know, like, I wanted Nicholas to die, you know, but I felt like Glenn was slightly going to die because of the fact that, like, the way the articles and everything, the interviews were saying, and it was going to be an emotional, you know, season finale. And I was like, really, this is what we're getting right now?
But I'm happy that if it was going to be a major, I'm glad it wasn't going to be Glenn, because you have to get that moment. And, you know, spoiler free for the people who haven't read the comics.
I don't want Glenn to die.
If he's gonna die, I want that moment. That's all I'll say.
First of all, I don't want that moment. I don't want that moment because I want to be surprised. Because even for people, unfortunately, who haven't read the comics, they might be familiar with that. They might have been spoiled with that, unfortunately. But I don't want that. I want it to change. I want it to change.
Right.
So I'm totally fine with the way things go if they're different or anything. Oh, sorry, that's distracting. But
it's okay.
Just trying to pull up the live thing.
At myself.
Well,
I'm looking at my hand moving.
But
Stop
anyway,
that, Nando.
but what I loved in regards to Glenn, the whole Glenn thing is, I mean, first we have the "I love you" moment, which we all were like, oh, he's so gone, and then he's out following Nicholas, and we're thinking, oh, he's probably gone. Once he gets wounded, I'm like, oh, he's so not dead. But then we see like 3 walkers on top of him before they cut away.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, look, Glenn was locked up, you know, back in the governor's storyline back in Woodbury with a walker when he was, I think, chained up, if I remember correctly. So he was able to survive. He can survive in these situations, but it kind of sucked that we didn't see him get out of that, because that looked pretty lethal too.
No, but that's almost like the Tyrese thing from earlier.
Yeah.
You know, when you assume he was going to get killed off screen on it, and then he's like, no, he's actually okay.
And John, you made a good point at the beginning, because I was like, is he going to die right now? And you said he's not going to die off screen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can't do a major
you
death
can't
off
kill
screen.
Glenn off screen like a major death.
Yeah.
Like, it would be too much.
Unless you do a Sophia moment, but...
Or unless they want to funk with you. So, Leisure Reader on the chat saying, where the hell is Bitulus going? And Andrew Fedge saying, I think Nicholas fully intended for Glenn to follow him, and then he could take him out. He felt that threatened. And I agree with that.
100%.
Yeah, totally
I
agree with
agree.
that. So,
Especially after the confrontations they've had in the past, like, he knew if Glenn saw him, Glenn was going to tail him. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and he bet right. He just didn't bet that Glenn was such a badass.
But what
Or
about
that he's a really
Also,
shitty
how was
shot.
Nicholas able to walk at all after that, too? Didn't, like, Glenn, stomp his knee out?
Yeah, well, he was holding on to him. He had him on his
end.
shoulder.
Yeah.
But Nicholas crying at the. I mean, he's so badass. He sneaks Glenn out, perfect plan, starts chasing him like a badass, and all of a sudden he's crying.
Sorry, I just cursed.
And I'm so
That's one.
scared. But you know what's important with this, and I saw Stephen Yeun had a really good interview this week on EW about Glenn's decisions. Like he could have killed Nicholas before. He was really pissed off about Noah. He should have, but he chose not to because he still has that moral. He still wants everyone to live. He still wants things to be. He said it a few times in Alexandria. He wants things to be better again. He wants things to be back to the way they were. So here he is. Nobody dies. Nobody. Even if you've messed up, you don't die.
Right.
And we saw him take a really dark turn in that final part of that battle after he was wounded and the walkers after him. We saw him, and we all thought he was shooting Nicholas. I thought so too. Even when he lifted the gun up, I thought he was going to smash his head in, which was probably would have been worse. So that was huge.
Yeah,
I thought it was huge.
I don't know. I guess as soon as he held the gun up, I was like, he's not going to do it. He would have done it. I think it would have been an immediate thing if he'd done it. So once they started bringing that, is he going to do it thing? I'm like, nah, he's not going to.
But I actually thought that he was putting a gun to his head and then a walker was going to come and take him out.
That's what I thought he was going to get.
Oh yeah, I thought that. Yeah, I thought maybe that was when Glenn was going to get it for being too lenient and for not doing it. But I didn't think that he was going to shoot Nicholas. That I didn't think for a second. But
the struggle really was not, in my opinion, at that moment. There was a reason why there was hesitation, because the struggle was not Glenn and Nicholas. The struggle was Glenn and himself. The struggle was with Glenn.
100%.
And he could have shot him still. I mean, again, that was one of those moments we were all like, oh my god. We were really invested in it. So
yeah. So the thing that we get though is that they actually haven't made it back to the camp to Alexandria yet. You just assume they're going to make it back, but they haven't yet. It's just something to point out. They haven't made it back yet. They're just on their way. Yeah. So with that though, then let's go ahead and talk about the whole Rick storyline, which is the main storyline where Rick is him and Pete are separated like kids. Let's separate the two fighting different prison houses, and it builds up to the final moment where Pete sees Rick talking to Jesse. He's pissed off about it. This is not my house.
Right.
Breaking shit because he's an asshole. And then finally it ends up being Pete is the one to kill Reggie. So Pete's the one to actually kill someone in the group. And it also brings it back to what Maggie said.
It was accidental, though.
It was accidental,
Yeah.
but I think it also leads to what Maggie said about Rick, where she and Deanna were arguing about what Rick did, and Rick pulled out a gun, and Deanna's like, that was the problem, was that he pulled out a gun, and he was threatening. It looked like he was going to shoot someone, and Maggie points out, well, he didn't, and that's what matters.
Yep.
And then here we get Pete threatening, waving around a sword, and even though it was an accident, he does kill someone, and that is a major difference, obviously. I mean, obviously it's a difference, but leads to Deanna finally breaking down, and this is the first time she's ever, I'd assume, to execute someone as opposed to just.
Well, yeah, they've said in the past that they don't kill people; they just make them leave. They exile them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was really a huge moment for her as a character, because she realized their ways were going to eventually get everybody killed. That was what I got out of it.
And it took a major loss for her. Yeah. It took her suffering, because she's been living in these walls for so long in this privileged area.
Yep.
So it took that for her to really turn. It was pretty scary, though. She kind of was like that leader saying, do it. And then Rick just didn't hesitate and just killed Pete. I was a little surprised at that.
Real quick, Jesse Jones on the chat asking, can someone explain who Morgan is and how he knows Rick? I've forgotten. Morgan was from season 1. He's the one that Rick talked to each other. So and then later on
one of the best one of my favorite episodes called Clear, which I think is from season 3. I think I think it's from season 3. But anyway, if you want to catch up on Morgan, I think you'll see the pilot and the first episode and Clear. Right. The first season,
with
first
his son.
episode.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but so I mean, back to the whole trial thing though. That everyone in Rick's group is very clearly standing up for Rick, and I think there's a big moment there where Rick has to finally trust everyone in his group again too, and just believe that even if without this hardcore mode, he can be honest with them about things. Like even with everything going on, like Michonne, he finally opens up to Michonne, admits about the gun.
Well, what I found was the most interesting thing about this episode too is like what you're saying, Dave, is that Michonne stepped up, and Carle. You know what I mean? Like, actually, Carle is like, we always think that, like, the others are in the group are the like second in command, but Carle actually to me was like she was gangsta in this episode. You know what I mean? Like she was so hardcore.
That scene with Pete.
Yeah, with the scene with Pete, it's like she's almost like a female Rick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's ready to take someone down at any moment. If they, excuse me, F up, she's ready to take them down. You know what I mean?
And that line about these guys they're just children. They want to hear stories.
They want to hear stories.
Just talking down to these people. Yeah, about these people.
She has it mastered. It's like she's a 360 from where she was the first and second season of this show. You know what I mean? Like she to me is like almost a new leader. You know, she's like actually a leader that we should pay attention to.
I think with her too is that she's as brutal as Rick, but she's smarter, at least right now.
Yeah,
than Rick
she
is.
plays the game more. That's what
exactly.
I'll say.
She knows how to play the game.
She plays the game.
The thing that's really interesting, you're talking about the group coming up to Rick's defense and everything like that, and then Carle saying, "Yeah, they're children." The whole discussion that you hear, and granted, there could be things that are said off camera and everything like that, but nobody was really giving damnable evidence that they should kick Rick out. Even though the one guy is like, "Well, I mean, I guess if we have to, protect ourselves," and that's like
Tobin.
It's like that's the worst argument.
Meanwhile,
ever.
Tobin was responsible for Francine almost dying a couple of episodes ago, of all people talking. Here's the most important thing, and this is why I think we could save this for the end, but I love this. This is the trial of Rick Grimes in Alexandria.
I agree.
And this whole season, whether you've paid attention to all the clues, this whole season really has been about Rick being a leader again. They even showed that map, which we'll talk about that Morgan had, about the world's going to need a Rick Grimes. Like, this is the trial of Rick Grimes, and this is where now, he gets to be the leader, and everyone gets to, and everyone's speaking up for him. These were the perfect examples. These were the perfect reasons why Rick needs to step up as a leader.
Totally.
And be the leader that Alexandria, not just the group, but Alexandria needs right now.
I agree.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
So.
Real quick, though, I just thought this was a funny comment from chat. Antoine Wilson saying Carle would do well in Game of Thrones because talking about how she can play the game.
Dude, because she plays the game. She knows the game.
Yeah. But as far as the trial of Rick Grimes goes, though, that you're talking about, Nando, I think you're absolutely right. It all leads up to it. And I think the major point with Rick and everything is that he keeps on saying and talking about and reiterating is that in this world you have to fight or you bite it. And I think the fact that the walkers did get in and he has that evidence, he just drops the walkers right there.
Just drop it.
And he also drops the mic after the line luck runs out.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what it is no matter how harsh he's seeming, no matter how hard all of his things are that he does and the way that he's not coming across nearly as likable anymore, at the end of the day, in this world, he's right. And we even see evidence of that at the end of the episode with what we're going to touch on in a bit with what we assume might be the wolves, although they don't have the W's on their heads, but the group finding, with the trap finding everything out about Alexandria, where you absolutely need somebody like Rick, if it is the wolves indeed, for what they do. So, and I think Abraham also brought up a great point also with that whole luck runs out thing, which is Abraham talking about the fact that Rick's seen some serious shit and then drops shit 5,000 more times, but the fact that Rick's seen
shit right there.
Not only has Rick seen it all, he's seen worse than it all. He's seen beyond worse than it all. He's the one guy. He's the man who knows every possible problem that could happen, and here's what you need to do to fix it and stay safe.
Right.
I also like Rick's point. I don't know what he brought up, which is I don't know if it's the best thing to talk about in something like this, in this sort of trial, but I was questioning how many of you I had to kill to keep you alive.
Yeah, but I understood what he was saying.
I
though.
understood what he was saying. But for this group, it's just like, is that the story that they want to hear?
Yeah.
But at least he backed it up with
that's
what
a bad time story.
Yeah, it's a bad time with what he was saying, but he backed it up. You know what I mean?
No,
like he backed up the facts of why he said that.
Because Pete came in and did that.
And killed one of them.
Exactly.
It only took one. That was right. How many licks to the center of a Tootsie Pop? 3. How many people have to die? 1.
Yeah, Pete did a great job of being supporting evidence for Rick's case.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so that kind of led to that entire moment. But we'll see I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where Jesse's at next season with all of this, because as much as she might have agreed with Rick and been like starting to even still opened up to him, the fact of the matter is this was her husband who Rick just murdered in cold blood.
They're going to bang within 3 episodes.
Because it's a TV
Rick needs
show.
a blonde girlfriend in Alexandria.
Because everyone in that city wants to bang Rick. Like, let's be honest.
He's
they
a
all
man.
do.
Because he's a man.
He's the man.
Yeah, I just say that he needs a blonde girlfriend in Alexandria. I don't know, just feels like it. So why not have Jesse?
I was just like going with the fact that there's one thing to punch someone in the face. It's her husband, even though he was treating her like crap and doing what he did. There's still like he murdered this person that's been in Jesse's life for years and years. Yeah. So I mean maybe they do bang, which I agree with you is probably going to happen. I think she might have some conflicting emotions about it. Yeah, there we go. And then Carl will be like watching, be like, "Dad, I'm rooting for you," and it'll be really weird.
And he goes after his little 14-year-old
he'll be down with Enid, so it's fine. He's focused on Enid, so it's fine.
Also happening within this group, we have Abraham and Eugene finally talking to each other, thanks to Rosita. Forcefully allowing it to happen, doing the manly. I'm sorry, and that's kind of all you need.
But I actually love that part. Actually,
that was actually a really great apology scene.
Yeah. He's like, and we haven't seen much from Eugene.
Yeah. Well, it was great because it's like you didn't have to apologize back to me. He goes, "Well, I did almost kill you." He's like, "Yeah, there is that." it's like how when you're with a group of your guy friends and you do get into a fight about something and you try to make it right, but somebody makes the the dumb comment,
make it awkward,
and you're like, "Oh yeah, you did like."
Kind of like us at the bar last week with you and I, John.
We're not going to talk about that.
Right. No. Sorry, off camera.
Yeah, it's a good thing you didn't see that one. That was even worse than the whole Abraham Eugene thing.
No, but what I did like about that is that Abraham is such a hardcore dude, So it's like the fact that he's still willing to even accept an apology or just even apologize himself. It shows a different side of him because we see the crazy side of him. You know what I mean? Like Walking Dead has shown that crazy side of him going through all these crazy emotions, and the fact that he can even still come back to who he is and show that, I think that's cool.
Well, I mean, I think it's exactly what John said too. Where it's not like he doesn't feel emotions, but just the sake of this, it is very much the dudely way, the guy's most manly way to apologize. Is just kind of like. You have that brief moment of weakness where you say it, and he had that look of like, I'm saying it, and I don't want to, but I'm going to say it because I know I have to, and then that's it. That's it. You've apologized. It's over now. We're gonna get over it.
Yep. I think Abraham. When we saw him rescue Francine, I just love that scene. He showed leadership there himself. Yeah, so I think now that he's in a more normal environment, I think we're seeing the softer side of Abraham too. And he's the soldier, but he's on a break, so he gets to recharge. And I think he has a lot of wisdom there that we get to see.
But I still feel like there's more there that we're going to see that's on the darker side.
Oh, it's going to come out.
What I mean?
It's going to come
out. He's an interesting character because he's got a lot of layers. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like. Yeah, they show the negative side and then the positive side, but it's like still more there for us to see. So.
Yeah. I think also too with what you were talking about earlier, Derrial, and with relating to that comment about Abraham being a leader, I think that between everyone in the group, we've seen now that Derrial, who we're going to talk about in a bit, Rick. Michonne, when Michonne stepped up, Carle, like everybody in this group has the capacity to be a leader, and that's what makes them such a strong group.
Such a strong group, and no other group that we've seen from who they meet or come across has been able to do that. At any moment, any one of them could be the leader.
Right.
We saw. I mean, I never guessed Carle would be the like someone who we would consider being the leader, but now we can see that.
But what's amazing about
I wouldn't say everybody, because there are definitely the ones who won't make the right moves,
but like who?
Well, I'm sure Gabriel is easy, but
Gabriel's
I don't consider Gabriel part of that group.
Sasha could never be a leader. She's nuts.
That's true.
Now she is. But before,
well, I'm saying the current state of that group, she couldn't. Glenn can't. Maggie can't.
Glenn?
Are you serious?
None of those are leaders to me.
No, I disagree.
Oh my God, are you serious? Glenn is like second or third in command to me.
I don't even want to look at it with him. I don't even want to look at it as people in command. I think what's great about this group, and I think from a business standpoint, it's lateral leadership. It's like a leader usually steps up in front of the group, but they have so many people that are in front of the line, and they all work together as a team. And I think Glenn's definitely one of them. Maggie seems to be doing at least the government side of it. I can see more with her.
I feel like they all play their roles. They know their role.
They're great support, but I don't see them making
Here's
those
what
decisions.
I think the fact is, like, I think you just like people who step up and kill people. If Glenn had killed Nicholas, I bet you'd be like, Glenn's a leader.
No.
That was
I don't
big.
see him as a leader.
I think from when we saw him taking charge against Abraham and the last season and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I disagree. I see him.
Yeah, I disagree. I think Glenn could be a great leader. I sometimes think Glenn could be a great leader over Darryl, even.
I think
I don't think Darryl would ever want to be leader.
I don't think he'd want to be.
That's the biggest thing for him.
I don't think he'd want to be leader either. But I think the point, though, I mean, what I was trying to bring up, though, with the fact that I see a lot of them, the group, outside Gabriel and the obvious ones, I see them all being able to take charge and step up. I think that's what makes them, why they're all survivors, why they're all here today, and why they've all made it and continued.
But let me say this. I'm not saying that Gabriel could be a leader. Gabriel is no leader in my camp, all right? I would leave that camp if Gabriel was my leader.
But no, he would just lock you outside the church.
Yes, he would.
The one time
he would.
He was a leader. It didn't work out well for anyone.
You, Derrial, you should be sorry. You know why your girlfriend's dead? It's because you're a sinner.
Whatever.
That's why.
And this is no black on black crime. I don't like Gabriel. Sorry. I just got to be honest.
I think you're allowed to not like somebody. And we have a
Alexis has a question from the booth.
I have a question.
Okay.
A lot of us in the chat roll right now are talking about Morgan and, him maybe reuniting with Rick and stuff like that. Do you guys think it would be a good idea for him to be in the group? And also, I was thinking he'd be a really good recruiter if he is part of the group.
Well, the interesting thing about Morgan, which I guess we're waiting to talk about Morgan in a second, but no, it's cool. No, it's cool because we might miss this part. I think it was a great question. Is the final moment with Rick killing Pete.
No,
that's right when Morgan sees
right in front of Morgan.
Rick. And Morgan has been saying since the beginning of this episode, all life is precious. And he's been helping, he's been being a good guy. And I think he's been holding on to that morality because of, again, that episode Clear, when he was with Rick and Michonne and Carle back at what town was Rick from? I can't remember now. I just had a little brain fart. But anyway, back in Clear.
You just
back in there. I didn't just fart. But point being, shut up. But point being is that I think that's a huge moment, and they're definitely teasing that for next season because here's Morgan coming all good, and now he sees Rick
as a different person.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, which is what we're going to talk about during the Morgan section, but that's fine. Yeah, that's so we're definitely going to be talking about Morgan, but it's kind of since everything with Morgan is going to lead into next season with the Wolves and then that one moment with Rick, which is absolutely vital, I think, and I agree with you, Nando. It seems like all that's going to lead into next season 100% and be completely vital. But so yeah, great point on that.
Oh, thank you.
So with going back to where we were though with Gabriel, we can go ahead and talk about Gabriel's story though.
Yeah.
How much
I'll stay silent then.
Derrial hates Gabriel. Well, I don't know why you need to stay silent. This is your moment to shine, Derrial.
Because he's going to say a lot of F words, and then we're going to have
And he's going to apologize.
Yeah.
He's going to apologize after every
I'll
F word.
apologize a lot. This topic.
Gabriel going out to either, I think you can interpret either way, but it seems like to be a martyr. You just let himself die because of his sins, and go to let the walkers take him because of what he's done, and then he finally finds that instinct, the last moment thing when it comes to it, that he will actually fight for his life, which he's upset about.
Well, he also symbolically when he shed the priest's attire and he's going out there with just a white shirt and everything like that.
Yeah.
To me, that's almost the equivalent of going from being a priest and being a leader of men to being a fanatic. I instantly thought of cultists, how they just have the very plain uniform type stuff.
That's cool, yeah.
And just the white reminded me of that for some reason.
Well, it's funny because usually in a horror movie when someone wears white, blood's going down on that shirt.
I actually thought that was going to be the case.
Which is another disappointment because his shirt was clean.
I totally thought he was going to come back with blood.
But here's one thing. Let me just go on my 2-second rant. I'm so tired of Gabriel, right? First of all, you've destroyed the group. You've hated on the group that actually saved your ass, first of all, and brought you along when you are a weak link, right? And then you come along with this group and you hate on the group, which you say some secret shit to Deanna. And I'm sorry, she's the S word, but you know what I'm saying? You say all this stuff, and then you go out and you're like, oh, I'm not worthy. Let me just kill myself and have a walker eat me or whatever. You know what I mean? He's wasteful for this season to me.
Yeah.
Like, he is wasteful, honestly.
He did have the second most badass kill of the episode, though. You do have to give him that.
I thought it was the bad. I thought it was the.
I can't even give him that.
No, the chain.
Oh, the chain was pretty bad.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, the chain
I will
was
give you that,
badass.
John. I'll give you that,
And
John.
I go silencer gun with
The silencer gun, too.
the other one.
But to
we
me, he
didn't
has
talk
no
about that
purpose.
either.
And then you have this moment with Sasha. You know, it's like all this build up for him. I was waiting for him to die this episode.
And
it's the
Sasha
season finale.
too. I mean, it was perfect because Sasha's been
It's a perfect build up for Sasha to stab him in the head or whatever.
But they both to kill each other.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want Sasha to die. Really, I really
I just feel like her arc has just hit a point where I was expecting it.
Now she's just crazy.
Yeah, she's still
crazy.
got a
see,
moment.
the thing is-
I can let her go because she's mourning her brother. You know, I can let that go. And her lover, you know, it's fine.
But see, the thing is, she's crazy, and that's why she can't die. They only die when they start becoming normal again. As soon as you start having like your "I'm on a positive swing" episode, that's when you die.
But she
That's true.
showed
It's kind
that.
of the Game of Thrones
but
rule, when you start to love him.
Right.
That's
But what
But
does
she
Gabriel
showed that-
bring to the group?
Wait,
What does he bring to the group?
Well, hold on. But first of all, she showed that when she was looking for forgiveness from Gabriel. She showed that she was trying to become normal again when she was questioning him, and then he turned her down and went off on her. But I will say this one thing, and you're not going to like this about Gabriel.
Okay.
Is I
he
I
likes
mean,
Gabriel.
It was a beautiful. No, not that I like Gabriel. It was this beautiful moment when. We had like three characters, I think, on their backs. Three main characters on their backs at the same time. It was like it was Glenn fighting with Nicholas, and he was on his back. We had Rick with the Walker before he did that really cool silencer gun type trick.
That was
and we
awesome.
had
That was a
Gabriel,
nice scene, by the
and we
way.
had Gabriel being held down by Sasha. It looked like and none of them died, first of all, but
And then Maggie comes in.
saved him.
Maggie saved it,
and that
yeah.
was another big thing because you had
I
Glenn.
thought Maggie was going to shoot him,
Yeah.
actually.
Right after I thought Glenn was going to go to the dark side, then I thought Maggie was.
Yeah.
But Maggie saved him, and that last shot was like her holding his hands, and I think we're going to see a big change from Gabriel next season.
I don't understand his purpose, though. Like, what's his purpose? What is he bringing to this group? Please explain
Okay,
it
so
to
I
me.
think the point of his purpose is exactly what we saw with Sasha. Is he's supposed to be that moral compass that people can come to. He's not.
But he's shady.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying what he's supposed to be. Like, you see the one guard who wants to talk to Gabriel, because people in this world, people in general, like, you do something bad, you want to let it out, right? Or you want to tell somebody to just release that. That's why churches have it, so you can go do confessional, so you can release that and like get it out of you, so you can feel okay again, because it's hard to hold those things in. I'm saying the point what
That
he's
sounds
supposed
great,
to do.
Dave,
I'm saying
on
the point
paper,
let me
but
say
sorry.
I'm saying what he's supposed to be there for. So the point is, like, obviously he's not. He's terrible. He's terrible. I don't disagree with you. I hate him too, and I want him to die too. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying what he was supposed to do. So the point is, I think Nando's right that the
Face
whole
right now is-
the
I'm
whole-
sorry. I'm trying to embrace this moment from Dave.
the whole arc is supposed to be, it was probably going to be, is that Maggie is telling him as she lifts him up, yes, you let those people die. You straight funked up, and you let those people die. And like saying it to his face though, but as she's lifting him up. So I think the point is that it's supposed to be that now that she's said that, he's going to start to accept what he's done and move on and actually become the father he's supposed to be. Now, did I want him to die? Yes. Would I have minded if he died? Not at all. I would have liked if he died. But
It would have been a
that's
major
the
death.
point, though, and I think that's the arc they're going with
hear
for
you.
him.
I hear
Regardless, though, yeah, I agree. He's an awful character, and what he
terrible.
did is pretty to the group is pretty.
And what about the way he slams the gate and then walks with that swagger coming out like,
I just killed the first walker.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He also by doing that too, he's also both the guard and him. He should
That
know
was
better
Spencer,
than
I think, was the guard, right?
But I mean,
Yeah.
both the guard and him just completely neglecting the gate too, and just proving Rick correct about how stupid the people are in general. So
Kids.
Yeah, they're kids, and Carle. Kids, they need those
stories.
bedtime tales.
They need their stories.
No, I mean it all goes along with what Carole said, because them not shutting the gate is the equivalent of a kid leaving the back door open and then their puppy runs away.
Absolutely.
Little more extreme repercussions, obviously, but it's no different in terms
That's true.
of basic like thought process on it.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move outside of the gate and outside of the walls that were left open. Okay, so to Aaron and Derrial, and they're on hunts for to bring recruits in, and they see this guy in a red poncho, glaringly standing out, and it brings them to this area with trucks with that looks like food that
It
they
looked
can
like
have.
a supply house,
Right,
for,
some
like
sort of
grocery
supply house.
stores and stuff.
I will say, if people noticed, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but there were a bunch of cans strung up that made it look like it was going to be a trap.
I did notice that.
Yeah, I
the
noticed that
can,
too. I thought it was a warning of some sort.
I'm surprised that Derrial didn't notice that type of thing, because to us as an audience, you see that you're like trapped, and Daryl's usually the one who notices things that nobody notices.
Just knock on the damn thing before you open it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was interesting that he opened it so quick.
Yeah.
Without, but also, they had to be making some sort of noise. Like, I don't care how...
I can't imagine you can't hear
You
it
have
from
to
that
hear-
truck.
Or like
Yeah.
some sort of shuffling or something
Yeah,
like that.
I agree.
And they were all like pretty strong walkers too.
Yeah.
Like none were like disintegrated down to just bone or anything.
Well, they fed
like
them,
that.
it looks like, because they had those other walkers on hooks, and I'm guessing they eat off each other or something.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's what those people are for then, that they keep on murdering off.
And a lot of those walkers had W's on them.
Yep.
Yeah, here's the thing too that's really weird about the whole situation is that, you know, those walkers had W's, and it brings to question the wolves and all that, but when you see them slice open the poncho guy's neck and kill him, and then one of the guys turns, there's no W on his head. So is he part of the wolves? Is it some other group?
Well, you said it looked like the first two guys, other than the fact that we saw his forehead didn't have a W on it, kind of looked like
Right.
those first two guys from the first scene
yeah,
with Morgan.
it did. Like the guy on the left had the hair.
Long hair. It looked like them.
Right.
And I mean, Morgan did say all life is precious. It's possible that he didn't kill them.
Right.
That is a possibility, but
It's just very strange because we also rewound and like I don't know if it, like none of you guys have the W, right?
No, it definitely
Yeah.
wasn't
No,
there.
Yeah. So
well, here's let's, if you don't mind us talking about the wolves. I thought it was
Yeah.
really interesting to hear the backstory from that first wolf, that first guy with Morgan, because he said that they put bounties on the wolf, the tribes. That they were the local tribes put bounties on the wolves' heads, and they made the locals hunt them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, other than the fact that this guy and his partner seem like bad guys, you're hunting wolves, and
Wolves,
we saw
yeah.
a couple of them already. We saw that one that was tied up, the
Yeah.
woman that was tied up.
Yep.
So, are the wolves
From the last episode.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
are the
The ones
wolves
that
really
infiltrate.
bad
Yeah.
people, or are the people hunting the wolves the bad people? That's my question.
that's
a
a
good
really
point.
good question. Because I thought of that as like maybe potential backstory before everything started, but that's you could be correct.
I mean, those two guys are obviously bad because they probably were put in that situation, but that doesn't mean the wolves in general were bad. Maybe the
Yeah.
people
That's
hunting
Sure.
them were.
That's a good point.
Like,
Yeah.
like if they don't bring back a quota of a certain amount of stuff, that's when there's a price on
I
their
know where
head
you're
or
going
something.
there. Yeah, I see where you're going with that one.
oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, because he was just straight up robbing Morgan, and then he was also, forcefully recruiting Morgan too before Morgan turned it
But he was
all
going to
around.
kill him.
Well, no, the
He was going to kill him.
Yeah, but how
Yeah.
is he going to kill
Yeah,
him with
but he
no
didn't say
bullets in the
where-
gun?
yeah, he
he
didn't
knew
say-
he didn't have bullets in the gun.
I think the forceful.
So how is he going to kill him?
The forceful recruiting was probably going to be maybe it was going to be bait or something like that.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
for a
yeah.
I feel like he was testing him out. I don't feel. I actually feel like he was trying to intimidate him, but he
That
wasn't
other
really
guy
going to
was
kill
going to
him.
tackle him with the
That's true.
Yeah, and
That's true.
they did actually use the same line though from the same one that the guys at the end used on the poncho guy. They're like, "Just be still," and
Just be
that's
still.
that's their
Yeah.
signal word.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Be
Ooh.
still means somebody slitting somebody's
Yeah.
neck or
I like that. That's a good
crashing
point.
their skull or something.
Yeah,
That's true.
absolutely. I think I like this wolf group though. They seem.
You like the
it.
wolf group or
Well-
the two guys you're talking about?
I like the entire situation, I
Oh.
suppose. the entire
wolf.
puzzle of like what's going on with them, and especially
wolfness.
what you brought up, John, with like what about the group that was hunting them, and what does that mean, and what are all the implications? I think it's a cool mystery that we're left with at the end of the season. But we do get finally the beginning of the episode, Morgan. So let's go ahead and talk about Morgan.
Everything has a
Which
return.
everyone's been wanting to talk about, yeah.
Everything gets
Everything
a return.
gets a return.
Morgan's
That
big
was
return.
said several times in this episode,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah. And Morgan gets his return to Rick finally.
Yep.
And how
Sort of,
badass
sort of.
Sort of.
and how badass is he with the stick?
Well, like we said during the
Donatello.
episode, it's like I'm not trying to mess with a man who is like so stealth and silent with his way
He
of
was so at
fighting.
peace.
He was at peace.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
almost the way, like, in
But I think he's
in a
still
movie
crazy.
there's a monk that's fighting. It felt like a monk to me
Yeah.
because he wasn't using a bladed weapon. He's using something blunt that is only fatal if you really want it to be. But if you're fighting with a knife, you're pretty much always killing something.
You are, but the thing is, though, we've seen in the seasons before that he had lost it a little bit.
Yeah.
So do you think that he is zenned it out, like he's like a functioning? He can keep it together, or do we think that he's still going to go a little crazy?
I think he's clear. I think he's.
You think so?
Pun intended.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, way to bring
pun
that back.
intended.
Way to bring that back.
I think he had his moment.
But he's
he was
been
a little
by
crazy.
himself this
I know,
entire time.
and he was by himself, and he's reflected perhaps or whatever, and he decided to move on, and he is very clear-minded and clear with himself.
But
I think that's a very zen moment for him.
Also, to bring up the whole analogy too, with what John brought up with the whole monk thing, that's what monks do. Is they go out on their own to find themselves.
Okay.
So yeah, they find themselves by themselves, and I agree. I do think with Nando, I do think that's what he's done. Is he's now clear, so to speak, and I think.
But how? Here's my thing, though. How did he get clear? Because the last time we saw him, he was not headed in a direction.
But that was
clear.
2 seasons ago. I mean, I don't think I think it would be a pretty boring episode to see how he got clear. But I think he definitely just needed to reflect and take time to himself and be at peace.
So from Jalhan Caster on the chat, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. So we've had a katana wielder and now a staff wielder. When are we going to see a nunchuck and sai wielder?
Yeah, I know. We need the other
That's
turtles.
next.
We gotta get the
That's
full
next.
turtles. Come on.
It'll be guys that are wearing all green too.
Yeah, exactly. So you got Morgan and Michonne just need to wear green. So they gotta just switch their colors up. It'll blend in. It's the woods. They're in the forest. It's perfect.
Take that red poncho from that guy.
And then just
There you go.
dye
That's
another
perfect.
color.
He doesn't need it anymore. Take that. Use them. Yeah.
Make a bandana out of it. Now you got the main turtles colors before they had colors. So, Morgan, though, then, as you talked about Nando, also ending the episode with the worst possible timing for his new philosophy, which is seeing, this is all he's been on a mission for, is Rick, and that's his mission, that's his quest, is to find Rick again. And his last moment is seeing, or his first moment with Rick, I should say, is seeing Rick murder somebody, and completely relentless, too. I mean, like, Rick just doesn't give a crap. As soon as Deanna says it, it's like, I've been ready for this. Just... That's the first moment.
The choice of the word murder is interesting to me.
Yeah, it is.
Because murder is premeditated to me, and yes, he's wanted to do it, but it's execution to me. It's not murder.
It's execution.
Okay, that's good. You're correct.
Yeah.
It's the person in charge of the village, the town, the mayor, whatever you want to call her, the leader, giving a command to the sheriff.
The enforcement.
The enforcement. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I just use the word. When I say it, I just
from Morgan's perception,
it's murder.
It could
Right,
look
right.
It
like
could
murder.
look like murder.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I mean I just use the word as like, oh, he killed somebody. I wasn't using for the proper
Got it.
term. So
No,
thank you
okay.
for but that would be the correct terminology. And you're right. That like maybe if he hears that will change things. But I mean, for his philosophy, especially if it turns out he left those wolves alive, and that is who we were seeing, that could have huge implications for what he just found. And maybe for what you were talking about, Derrial, too, where we think that he's clear-minded now, he seems to be in a good place. Maybe he was really just following with what Rick had told him. And it's almost like your role model, and you see your role model, and all of a sudden, like, everything you believed in about your role model just completely in your face wrong. Like, you meet your... like I meet Maggie, I meet Lauren Cohen, and she spits in my face.
I know how you would feel
She
about
just
that.
spits in my face and then laughs about it.
Yeah.
It's just like that's almost like what just happened to him, but not nearly as brutal.
Yeah, it's like somebody saying, "Don't do drugs, don't do drugs." You turn a corner and you see him like shooting up heroin. Or
Right,
something
right.
Like that.
But like specifically, that was your role model. That was the person.
Yeah.
That's the reason you weren't doing drugs, and then you see them shooting drugs. So
Right.
it exactly is that. So we'll see how Morgan turns from this moment and how it affects him, and if he does go back to crazy, like you were questioning, Derrial.
Yeah, I feel like if he's on his own, how could it all be non-existent anymore? You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see next season. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have every single major character to come back next
Yes,
season.
which I did not expect, by the way, and I'm
Which is-
sort of disappointed.
And that means we'll see them at Comic-Con, probably that whole batch. That's good. I'm kind of happy. I was really afraid of seeing certain
wasn't
people
happy.
gone. I know. Well,
You just want to see the Comic-Con. That's your biggest concern.
I
that's
have three
part of
people I
it.
wanted dead, and 2 of them are not.
Yeah, we should say, like, we had discussed doing just like a gentleman's side bet before this of who we all thought was going to die. So who were your 3 that you thought?
Well, the first was Glenn.
Which we all thought.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I threw in Sasha.
Yep.
And I also, actually, the third was Daryl. I'm just going to say that because the way the articles were building up this emotional season finale, crying, they were asking the actors, like, who was going to die, and all this stuff was like a buildup. And I was like, if someone can bring an emotional buildup of crying, who would that be? It would be Glenn or it would be Daryl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At this stage.
Yeah.
You know?
I absolutely agree
So-
on the Glenn
And I
front.
got neither
Yeah.
of those, by the way.
And then I thought it was going to be like a Rosita or somebody like that.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was an emotional build-up, though.
Well, no, Glenn would have been the emotional, and only because we thought there were going to be multiples.
Yeah.
Rosita was my go-to of like something goes wrong in the town, and she's the one that bites it.
Yeah.
I picked the same ones as you, Derrial. I would have picked those three. I had Daryl and Sasha down, and Glenn too.
So I went Glenn, Michonne, and I mean, I was thinking Nicholas because I didn't think they killed 3 main characters. That was crazy. So, but I did think.
Well, nobody picked Reggie.
So I went too.
Yeah.
So I thought like Glenn and Michonne were going to be the two. Michonne because she hung up her sword, and I was like, oh, well,
That
after
makes
we
sense,
talked
too.
about it last week,
Well, I
I was
feel
like,
like
maybe
She
that
hung
is
up her
the
show and
indicator.
Pete used it.
I was gonna say they threw the Michonne sword in with the Reggie kill. You know what I mean? So I was like, I guess we got 50% of that.
I will say I did like Reggie. I'm sad.
I did see.
He was the voice of reason. I felt bad for
There
Reggie.
you go.
I felt bad
You
for
just said
Reggie.
it. You just said it. That's
He was
why
the
he's
voice of
like,
reason.
that's why he
why
left.
you're actually a reasonable person. You can't survive.
He had that
felt bad
moment
for
with
him.
Maggie where he explained what he was going to
I'm going
say.
to do something the right way.
Yeah, there we go.
But this will be interesting to see how.
And Alexis was going to pick
from the booth
Gabriel.
said Gabriel, Glenn, and Sasha.
Yeah.
So
All right, there we go.
Gabriel, I called you Gabriel. Alexis, you were with us. But it'll be interesting to see now where Deanna goes now that like she's lost her son and her husband at this point. You know,
I
so
think
does
she
that mean
steps
she's going to
back.
side more with Rick at this stage even more?
Yeah.
You know, or you know, which we saw that because she obviously had him do what he did, but
Yeah.
is she going to be fully engrossed in this group at this point?
I think she's going to a dark place.
I think she's going to a dark place, and I think she's going to lose it a little bit. And there's going to be, I think
As
next
well,
season's going to be a battle for who is
Who's in
in charge
control
of
of
this town.
Alexandria.
Yeah.
I think they're on the same page, but I think she's going to lose a little.
A lot of pages,
Yeah, she's going to
yeah.
lose a lot. Yep.
I want to just kick back to Alexis's picks because she thought Gabriel was going to be one of the deaths. I saw an awesome tweet that it was, if Gabriel dies, we ... Oh, never mind.
Nice.
Nice.
Nice. All right. So with that said, though, before we go on to more predictions for next time, let's go ahead and go to news and gossip.
AFTERBUZZ TV News.
We don't have much time, so I'm just going to make this one quick. I just want to give an update on the Man Killer documentary that executive producer Gail Ann Hurd is doing as a Kickstarter. Last week we talked a little bit. I went really quickly through it. It's $150,000 they're trying to raise, and they have 9 days left to do it. And you know, the big item was the tickets to the premiere for $10,000. A lot of the big ticket items have been gone, but some of these, and they're not really. Some of these are still around, and they're not really terrible. Like, they're not that expensive when you think about it. They're mostly tax deductible. I think anything over $200 is tax deductible. But it's so funny. The premiere's gone. The VIP pass to Walker Stalker in Atlanta's gone. There's a couple of Talking Dead packages for $3,000. You can go shooting with Merle in LA. You can go hang out with Michael Rooker and go to a gun range with
Thank you
Michael
for
Rooker
clarifying gun
and do
range.
that.
I
hope.
was a little worried.
I hope so.
That was, yeah.
Believe it or not, for $3,000, this has already been sold out. Cookies with Carle. You can
want
actually
cookies with
have
Carle.
cookies with Carle in April.
I would like that.
So
But
does
somebody
she
bought
make-
that.
does she
What
make
does
them?
this say about me when I prefer cookies with Carol over shooting with Merle?
I know it was for the same price as Merle, but they went with
Mommy
cookies.
issues?
And then also you can
or I
do.
just like cookies.
There's a bunch of them for Talking Dead. You can do a Hardwick meet and greet after the Talking Dead, or hang out, have dinner with Gail Ann Hurd. Walking Dead panels at Comic Con or New York Comic Con. There was a couple of good ones here. Spaghetti dinner with Herschel, $1,000 with Scott Green.
nice.
You can get a Walking Dead electric guitar signed by the cast.
How much is that one?
$1,000.
It's like a $400 guitar. right?
800,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
and
so.
signed by the whole cast. $800, you can get a 10-minute web call with Steve Young. I can't. He's a friend of mine. I can't even talk to him. $750 Nerdist podcast. You have to go to a taping of the Nerdist podcast for $750. The Alexis, you can get an outgoing message from Norman Reedus on your phone, or Michael
What?
Rooker, or Danae
She
Guerrero.
just got really excited.
For $750.
She just spent $750.
It's still open.
Alexis.
That's
It-
like a month's paycheck for me.
Here's another cheap one. This
Yeah.
is $350. You can get a replica Michonne's sword signed by Danae Guerrero.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's
That'd be
cool.
sweet.
I like that one.
And then this one is really cool. If I had the money, I would go for this, actually. It's a Terminator 30th anniversary poster signed by, it's not Walking Dead, but it's Gail Ann Hurd, because she's one of the executive
Ooh,
producers
I
for the
wouldn't mind
Terminator
having
series.
that. I love Terminator.
It's signed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Cameron, and Gail Ann
Arnold
Hurd.
Schwarzenegger.
Oh, that's
What
so
an-
cool.
I still go
Dick for
All
350.
that.
over WrestleMania
So I say
tonight, too.
like worth-wise, like $350 for a replica sword. At least you have something tangible.
And it's signed.
That's
Yeah.
signed.
That's cool.
As opposed to just a poster.
And I think the poster too, it's signed too. But anyway, they've raised $114,000 so far. They have $36,000 more to go with 9 days left. So you can go search Google Man Killer Gale Ann Hurd, and you'll get up to the Kickstarter page. And feel free to go in. There's a lot of other prizes. Those are just all the Walking Dead ones. But Gale Ann Hurd is very big in the industry. She's got tons of other prizes there. Go check it out.
Can I ask the question that's on all of our minds?
Yes.
Why
Say it,
isn't
Dave.
there an option of spaghetti dinner with Maggie?
You want a lady
I
in
think
tramp
that's like
moment.
99% of your mind right there.
He wants
Let's
a
keep it
lady.
honest and real.
He wants a
You're
lady
not
in the tramp
alone.
moment.
I do love Maggie.
You're not
though.
alone, Dave.
Oh, you two
I would
Alexis?
do it too.
So
For sure.
Chip in.
I will.
I just
right.
don't want spaghetti on the West Coast. You guys don't know how to make good Italian.
I agree.
I agree with you that
That's
actually,
That's true.
look, I'm from Chicago. I agree that Chicago does it better, but there's one place that I found in Sherman Oaks, amazing.
Okay, we'll talk after.
Talk later.
All right, so the only place I found. All right, so let's go to predictions.
And now,
Predictions.
your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
And while we're here, we didn't talk about much. I just want to bring up something with Derrial and Aaron first because we didn't talk much about them, which is just that they did have a great moment, which is the step-up moment of where they're both trapped in the car, and
Yeah.
I think it's that moment of you reveal who you truly are.
Yeah.
And they both. That was the reveal of your true character, I think, in the moments like that. And Derrial being like, "I'm going to be the one to go out so you can survive," and Aaron saying, "No, we're doing this
got
together."
your
I think
back.
it's just
Yeah.
that true.
Together.
And I did love that Aaron took the chain and knocked off like 3 of the walkers' heads with
Yeah.
the chain. Like that was genius. Like
Yeah,
that was
that was
badass
great.
right there.
So I just want
Derrial.
to bring
Was
that up.
that
because I
Derrial?
thought it
That was
just-
Derrial.
Yeah, it was Derrial. But anyways, that was just a great moment.
Aaron used the license plate.
Oh yeah,
The Alaska
you're right, you're
Alaska
right,
license
yeah,
plate.
Yeah.
All right, so next season, what do you guys think? Because we've already got that we all seem to be at a consensus that Morgan's going to be questioning things after what he saw with Rick. But what do you think's going to happen? I mean, obviously the Wolves now know about the location. They know, or if that is the Wolf Group indeed.
Yeah.
But we see that there's going to be trouble in Alexandria. Period. So
Yeah.
what do you guys think?
Can we do the comic book spoiler warning now?
You want to do the comic book spoiler warning?
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
do.
let's just do
Spoiler alert.
Wait. Let's just do normal
spoiler
predictions,
alert.
and then after that
And
we'll do
then
comic book
All right.
spoiler alert.
So those of you hopefully you didn't
Yeah.
tune out yet. So normal predictions first.
Yeah.
I'll go. You know, I think this group. I don't know if they're the Wolves or not, but I think they're going to be the main villains at least for the first half of next
I
season.
agree, yeah.
I definitely see Rick at some point. Either Deanna dies or maybe she gets exiled. I don't know, but at some point, I think Deanna's going to be out and Rick is going to be the leader. I think those are the two big ones. And we gotta have a death early on.
Yeah.
I think to make up
real
for.
early.
You know what? I'm going to go out and say it. I think this is a very rare chance, but I know somebody on the chat roll said, "Oh, it's too predictable to have a death in the season finale," and maybe that's true.
True.
How predictable would it be to have a major death in the season premiere?
I think it would be Glenn and Gabriel the first episode of the new season.
All right, Alexis agrees with Nando about that. This season premiere, I'm assuming, and all that.
Yeah.
I'm going to season premiere.
See, I'd go like episode 2 for the death, just to be different. You know what I mean? More for the sake so you can have like just a tiny bit of build up, and just because like a lot. I agree with you. The beginning of the season is usually when you don't expect it, but I think like you give like a little bit of build to like, oh, maybe there's some trouble or something's going to happen, and then season 2 is like it kicks off everything with the hunters or not the hunters. I'm calling them the wolves.
Yeah.
With the wolves, but I do think that the wolves are going to come to Alexandria. I think that Deanna is going to have a power struggle with Rick at this point, because now I think people in the town are going to question who to go to and who to turn to. And then I think
she'll turn it over though.
Do you think there's going to be a tie-in with? We saw, for those of you who were looking at the commercials, we did see a very teasery clip of Fear the Walking Dead, which is the name of the spinoff.
I can't
They kept
wait.
that name.
I'm excited.
So
Yeah.
I wonder if there's going to be So.
I think my biggest prediction goes along with Nando, though. It's that there is going to be some sort of change in the power structure.
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to be Deanna has now lost the 2 of the 3 things that she cares about in this world, and she's going to just start stepping back, whether it's by choice or just she's just become
Doesn't have a
secluded,
choice, yeah.
and she isn't leading anymore, and
Yeah.
that's what forces Rick to become the new leader.
yeah. All right, so let's go to comic book spoiler predictions.
Now you can do the spoiler.
All right, so wait. Let's wait like 5 seconds. Comic book spoiler prediction is about to happen, so
Spoiler alert.
We want this out.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert!
The wolves are working for Negan.
Oh, that would be great.
Or those two guys, at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, as much as I don't know the comic book stuff, because I'm not caught up at this point. I had read up to about the beginning of this season in the
me
comics,
too.
but I think I do think Glenn's going to.
Yeah.
Glenn's going. That's going to happen this season.
I think Glenn's
this
going
will be
to
the
bite
season.
it.
Again,
this season.
I don't think
This new
whether
season.
he does or not, but I don't want to see him go that way again. Just not because I like the character too much. I want to be surprised. I'd rather see somebody else go.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
it is one of those things where that scene needs to happen, regardless of who it happens with.
Yeah.
I will say, but that scene needs to happen because
I agree with that.
I went through 100 issues of that comic, and it was starting to be like, okay, this is the arc that just keeps happening.
Maybe
in different
Sasha
book-
or Carle?
But it's like that moment.
Definitely
is like,
Sasha.
It
I still say
reset my
Sasha.
thought process on the comic when that moment happens.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I also think that's going to make Maggie go slightly insane.
But I don't think Negan can come until Rick is in charge.
Yeah, and also I guess with the whole like how it's going to affect Maggie, I think.
Alexa agrees with me 100%.
There we go.
So
John,
I
you
won the
man.
internet.
You
Right.
the man, John.
So with Maggie though, we saw in a previous arc within the comics where Maggie gets really suicidal, and I think that Glenn's going to bite it, and Maggie's going to become suicidal. Anyways, that wraps up.
That's a nice wrap up there,
Gets
Dave.
knocked up first.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
I like that.
Throw
John.
something in there.
All right, so that wraps up The Walking Dead. Thank you guys for joining us throughout the whole season.
I'm sad.
I'm sad too. It was actually the second half of this season I thought was really good. It definitely picked up a
Better
lot.
than the first half.
This has been a great season.
Absolutely.
It's great. Scott Kimball's doing a great job, and I can't wait to see
Shout
what he
out
does
to
next
Scott.
season. Yeah.
Yeah, Derrial, to see each other on Sundays, we're going to have to do drinking Game of Thrones.
We could do that. And Dave
Drunk
hosts
Thrones.
Game of Thrones, so
What do you know?
I won't be functional for those panels.
Drunk Thrones.
Drinking Game of Thrones. It's a very dangerous
listen,
game to play.
we're gonna make it happen.
It's I like that concept.
You like that?
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next season, and that'll be that. See you guys later. Bye, guys.
Can you say where
Where's
you
everybody?
can
Where
find
can
you?
you follow
I'm so
everybody?
Find you,
out of it. I was
Dave.
like, I don't
Jesus.
know. You don't need to know. All right, so you can find me on Twitter at the Dave Klein. That is Klein, or I have a YouTube channel. Go check that out. Dave Control Live. If you like video games, I talk about them.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Nandovel, Nandovel. You can also find me here at AfterBuzz for The Blacklist and Bates Motel, some more creepy stuff. Hannibal
like
later
that.
on this season. Yeah, I got a license on the creepy
creepy
stuff. I
things.
guess True Detective.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of stuff. And then Survivor, just for the hell of it.
At the John Carle on Twitter, and also a YouTube channel called Whiskey and Waffles.
I love that. You can find me at Derrial Christon on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and on Black Hollywood Live. I'm the president, executive producer.
Oh, you know something about that.
I know something about
Leadership?
entertainment and that thing, but find me there as well. So
I don't believe. So I'm gonna go check it out. So I will do it.
And Gabriel will be a guest on his show in Black Hollywood Live.
no, you won't. He'll be killed. He'll be killed.
See, I'm gonna go so I become a believer.
Sorry. That was the moment. Sorry.
No, that's the way to end it. So we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later, walkers.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.